I can see the attendees filling up now. I won't say anything dramatically important at this point whilst you're all trickling into the room. A glorious day to have a webinar. I hope that some of you have got your laptops outside enjoying the sunshine, if that's allowed. So today's seminar, the one that you're trickling into at the moment, is the latest in AutoCAD for performance and Vectorworks. We've got two fabulous experts here to share both of those platforms with you. I'm just going to get the number to settle before I go through some of the housekeeping with you. I hope this is the second of our seminars today. We had a fabulous one on the Theatre Green Book this morning, and we've got a couple more this afternoon. So have a look at our schedule and take the time to have a look and see whether you're booked up for some other ones. That number seems to be settling, and I'm sure we'll have some latecomers come along. So it just remains for me to say good morning and welcome, or is it just around about lunchtime, just on the cusp of lunch? Thanks to everyone that's joined us. It's obviously part of a programme of seminars that we're conducting. My name, for those that don't know me, is Mig Burgess, and I'm an ABTT trustee. So normally at this time of year, we would be at Ali Pali, face-to-face, having our fabulous ABTT theatre show. And normally we'd be face-to-face, interacting, networking. And again, for the second year, those plans have been popped on hold. But it's our great pleasure to host networking and sharing of conversations via our seminars. We did the same last year. But it is very exciting to see the announcement of the co-locating of the theatre show with Plaza, and that will be on Sunday the 5th to Tuesday the 7th of September in the autumn. There will be, it's lovely to see the ABTT and Plaza join together to try and host a face-to-face forum for us, and I'm very much looking forward to not seeing you in Zoom boxes and seeing you face-to-face. There will be an ABTT hub within the show floor, and it will have the same conversational ambience that we're all used to when we go to Ali Pali for the theatre show. We're really pleased to be collaborating with Plaza to offer this. Visitors can register their interest, and I think Alicia is popping the link for that in the chat. And anybody that's interested in exhibiting should get in touch with the office. I'm sure Alicia will put the email address on there. But let's move on to today. So we're pleased to be able to present lots of seminars across the 2 days. Today's one, as I said, is the latest in AutoCAD performance and Vectorworks. I'm looking forward to a really exciting techie conversation about these two platforms. You're probably all very familiar with Zoom, but I'll just pop through it. Gallery view is the best way to view this so that you can see your seminar panelists easily. We don't have live closed captions available at the moment, but when this seminar is posted online on the ABTT webpage, we will have closed caption subtitles on that pre-recording, so that will be available for other people. Feel free to use the chat function, tell us where you're coming from. It's lovely to see so many of you from across the UK. Just say hello, engage with us. Alicia is in charge of that, and she's just a hive of information, and just anything that you can conceivably want will be on there, links, everything like that. So Alicia will be in charge of the chat. If you've got a question, obviously we're aware that AutoCAD and Vectorworks, you might have some very technical questions. I'm here to interject our two specialists with those questions. So pop it in the Q&A, and it's my job to gently butt in and make sure that your question is heard at the right time. So don't be shy. They can be as technical as you want. David and Tom may share their screen, and if they do share their screen, what will happen is that everything will shuffle around a little bit. Don't be alarmed, it's supposed to do that, and when they stop sharing, it'll all shuffle back. So that's not a problem. So yeah, engage, ask some questions. Also, just to let you know that we are recording this session, so if your internet drops out or you miss something, or you're something with your children, that's generally what happens to me, then the resource will be there later for you. So let me introduce the panel for today. So We have David. David's an AutoCAD expert, tutor and author of AutoCAD, a handbook for theatre, as looks at both new features in the latest release of AutoCAD, AutoCAD 2022, and some older ones that you may have forgotten. He's basically that phone a friend on that particular platform. I'm very privileged to have his number, so there you go. David will also be talking about AutoStage, a production plugin for AutoCAD, and accessing the software via a charity digital exchange if your organisation qualifies. So he will talk about that. And then we also have Tom, and Tom is our Vectorworks Industry Specialist, who will be exploring how to create 2D plans and construction drawings from detailed 3D models in Vectorworks Spotlight, including schematic views of vertical lighting positions and other useful theatre production workflows. And they will also update you on the fabulous ABTT Vectorworks and AutoCAD training courses that we offer at the ABTT. So I'm going to shut up because I'm not specialist in this area, but I am here to facilitate your questions. So don't be shy. I'll be looking at the Q&A button. So right, I think it's David. It's you first, isn't it?
Yes, I'm up first. Hello, everybody. So yes, just to introduce myself, David Ripley, AutoCAD certified professional, posh thing I have. I work as Head of Technical Production at the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama, Shrewsbury campus, as you can see behind me at the moment.
I think we've lost.
Is that David? That's yeah.
Frozen, I think.
Tom, darling, no pressure, but
okay.
In the interim, do you think? David,
hello, am I back again?
He's back. He's back. It's all right.
That was weird. Okay, I'll carry on then. So I've been doing theatre training in AutoCAD for about 20 years now. As it says there, DOS-based releases back in the oldie days before icons and 14-inch screens and the luxury of hard drive that was 1 gigabyte. And we thought, what will we do with all that space? And I'm just currently updating the AutoCAD book to version 5 to cover 2022. So I'm going to share my screen now and we'll start having a look at some of these tools. So I'm going to start online. So AutoCAD 2022 was released as usual in March and has a few new toys, which we'll have a look at in a second. This is one of them, which is why I'm on the online version at the moment. The file format has remained the same as AutoCAD 2018. To explain to people that don't know, every few years they update the file format, partly to reduce file size, to add security features and a bit more compression and stuff like that. Also to foil the likes of Vectorworks being able to offer the most current DWG format, as Autodesk own that format and don't tend to release the code to anybody. But this year, unusually, we're still in 2018. I think most people were anticipating a new version, but next year, let's carry on as we are. One of the things with the versions is that you don't actually know which version it is until you try and open it. So obviously the most current version, 2022, will open all the old ones. However, 2017 obviously won't open 2018. So it's one of those discussions to have if you are in a bit of a mixed media of people in different versions of AutoCAD or other programs, what is the version everybody can actually open easily? But as I said, it hasn't changed much. New features are more about collaboration than anything else, which is one of the first things we're going to have a look at here. So what I'm in here is in the AutoCAD web app. So if you take up an Autodesk account, which is free and comes with storage and everything, you will be able to access this, which is an online version of AutoCAD. It has a fair number of tools, but not everything. And depending on whether you then take out a subscription for a piece of Autodesk software, then more tools become available. Generally speaking, you can't start a new drawing, but you can upload a drawing and then take it from there. So in this, they've got a new thing called Trace. So as I said, this new version of AutoCAD is very much about online collaboration. So in Trace, the concept is, and I'll click over here on Trace, is that I can start doodling all over this drawing without actually affecting the drawing itself. And what can happen then is I can then open it in the desktop app, have a look at it, decide whether I like it or not, and then you can adopt it. So if I have a look at this, and I can say, a new trace. And as you can see, my screen's now changed. I'm going to zoom in a bit here. Lots of the same controls as you use in the normal AutoCAD. And I'm going to decide that I want this to be a little bit longer. So I've now extended that by 400. I'm going to be kind and tell people I've extended it by putting a revision cloud around it. And I'm going to be even kinder by, oh, that's 401. I've just missed, obviously just slightly missed the O snap there. So I've done that. And if I tick this, that will then create a new trace, as you can see up here. I've been fiddling around with this earlier. But the basic drawing is still there. It's just had this trace added to it. So it's like a kind of non-destructive and non-additional editing at the moment. But as you can see, most other things you can do in the web app. It's got all of my blocks that are in here. All the layers are there, just as they would be. Properties of the drawing. I've got loads of tools and stuff down here. So this is quite a handy tool for those on the go. And is actually different from the app that you get from for your iOS, for your pad and everything, although it shares the same storage area. So now that I've fiddled around with that, what I'm now going to do is I need to save this. So I'm going to save it, and it's now saved to my Autodesk area. And I can now close this down and I can go to AutoCAD itself. So whilst I'm here, we'll have a quick look at this. The main thing that you'll see if you're used to AutoCAD 2021 is this page, the start page, has changed quite a lot. So over on this side, we've got various announcements. Is there a software update, stuff like that, the fact that I'm logged in. In the middle, what my recent drawings are. You can see all the stuff in lovely details. You can change this so it's a list, images, whatever you want. And over here is a kind of slightly more of a change here, so that whereas before you had a big button that said start drawing, now you've got slightly different. So open, I can do the drop down and it'll open various things, or I click on open and it will take me to a normal file selection box. Nothing too scary there. New replaces that old start drawing page. So whatever your template is that's set up as the default, click new, off you go. If you use the drop down, then you can get to various templates that you've got. So you can see here, I've got a couple of templates set up for venues at Central, normal ACAD, 3D, and so on. So it's shuffled around a little bit. It's a little bit more graphical, as these things are tending to do, but basically it's very similar to how it was, but it's just a bit of a fiddle. Nowadays, we always have the dark background and the dark features, because this is very much seen as less strainful on the eyes. We've had this for quite a long time now. But yeah, dark grey seems to be the in colour nowadays. I don't think they're going to stray from that anytime soon. So I'm going to open this drawing, that drawing we saw, the corpse drawing, from the web and mobile. Make sure it's the same one. This will take a second to open. And here we are. So this is exactly the same drawing I was just using in the web app, except I haven't looked at the traces yet. So as you can see, I'll zoom in a bit. There we are. So if I go to collaborate, that's the thing there, and go to traces, and then have a look at that. And now I can see what's done, but this isn't part of the drawing still. So I can now adopt that, change it, add it to the drawing, and makes life a bit easier in terms of collaboration with people, so that they can actually edit drawings rather than sending you ideas on email, doing a Zoom call as we're doing now. But they can actually edit on the drawing and you can see it, review it, and decide whether you like it or not. I'm going to click that to say lovely, very nice. I can see what trace 3 was, which is pretty much the same thing, because I was practicing, because I tend to try and practice these things before I make a complete fool of myself. And there we are. So that's trace, which is new in 2022. I'm going to go to a different drawing now to look at the next feature. So get rid of that palette for now. Okay, so one of the things that people often forget is that blocks and all that stuff, you can count things very easily in AutoCAD, whereas the temptation is to completely forget that because it's a fairly obscure tool, the old one I'm talking about, and you tend to sit here with a pen, tapping on the screen, counting your lanterns or whatever. There is something called B count, which is in everything. So if I type B count, enter, I select objects, I'm just going to select everything, so I'm lazy. And what you'll see is, if you hit F2 on your keyboard, is you'll see a list of all the blocks that are in there. So I can see I've got all this deck, street lamp, various lanterns that are in there that I put in as a demonstration, which is lovely, but yeah, maybe I'll actually want to do something with that. So this has now been improved and called count, taking the B off because that was block count. So if I, again, I can just type count, if I can spell it. And again, I can just do that and hit enter. And this will take me through the ones I'm counting. They're being highlighted. So that's lovely. But what I want to do is a bit more sophisticated. So again, I'm going to go to view, and I'm going to go to palette, and I'm going to go to count. And this will just automatically count everything in the drawing for me. So I can see how many decks I've got, how many Fresnels, lanterns, I've got a park bench truck, there's blocks within there, there's all sorts of bits and pieces. I can open this up and see that actually of all these Fresnels, because this is a dynamic block and can be swapped between two different types, they're all actually Fresnels. If I was to move one to an old PC, then it would show me that. What I want to do though is I want to insert this table into the drawing, so I've actually got a lantern list. So I can click on here and then I can pick which ones I want to include. So I just go yes, 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 insert. So now I've got my list here and I'm going to shove it over here somewhere. So here's my list. This is grey because it's what's called a field, so that if something changes, this should automatically update. But now that I've got it there, I'm going to go to my layout windows. I'm going to move this over here and I'm going to go into this one. And I can bring that in so that it actually sits in a original place. So I've now got the lantern in the drawing. They've all got attributes and I've got a count, nice easy count that took me considerably less time, as I say, than me sitting there with a pen tapping the screen as I go through. And count can be used for lots of other things. As I say, it's blocks mainly, but all that other stuff you can pick up. But it's considerably quicker than sitting there doing it manually or printing one out and counting, and a lot more accurate. Obviously, that also works with things like attributes in and out and your general enhanced attribute editor. So that's count, which is new in 2022. You might have noticed up here, there's a big button called share. So again, going back to the collaboration side of what's intended with the new version of AutoCAD, sharing has become important. So this drawing here, if I want to share it with someone else, it's a lot easier. Before, you can save it into OneDrive and then do a link. This does exactly that, but with the push of one button. And again, this will use Autodesk servers, so I can say, edit and save a copy, they can view only. There's my link, and off I go. So again, collaboration, online collaboration is very much something that AutoCAD and Autodesk generally are really focused on. And that's really where their improvements are going to, because, you know, in terms of drawing stuff, drawing is drawing is drawing, and hasn't really changed that much in a long time. And there's only so much finessing of various tools you can do, because ultimately drawing a line is drawing a line is drawing a line, or a circle or a box. So it's more about the added value that they're trying to add to AutoCAD. And certainly with, in terms of us being more distributed, for want of a better word, during the pandemic, a lot of those tools make that collaboration considerably easier now than they did before. Okay, so another thing we've got is tabs up here, which we've had for a long time, which shows various drawings. And within that, you can jump to layouts, stuff like that. But what's always been a bit of a hassle is jumping between the two when you're working on something to kind of reference one drawing to another. So now we can take our tabs and we can float them. Now, I think this is frequently a feature in Mac stuff, but now we can do it in AutoCAD as well, so that I can reference any drawing within the other one. And all I need to do is jump in here. Now that's the active window. All the tools that I have in AutoCAD, I can use here. I can go there, so I can reference, you know, how high is that set of treads? Right, it's that. And I can just check if this is annotated on this drawing. 2.4, that's right. I'm just cross-referencing between the two drawings, but having to do that annoying click there, click there, click there, click there. I can just jump from one window to the other. And when I'm done with it, I just place it back up there and it's back where it belonged. So again, that's a new thing that's come in with 2022.
David, you have got a couple of AutoCAD
Yes, let's have a look at the questions.
So there's a really quick one that is AutoCAD software Mac friendly?
There is an AutoCAD for Mac version. It is, you know, the basics are very much the same. There are some things that it doesn't do just because it's the OS doesn't support it. So one of the things that I'm going to talk about in a minute is the design center isn't supported in the Mac version, which is a bit of a shame. It's a very fundamental thing. And a few other things, but of course you're paid the same money for it, I'm afraid. But yes, it is Mac native. 2022 is the latest version that was released about the same time. It's not released as frequently or to the exact same schedule as the PC AutoCAD. The PC AutoCAD, as I said before, because of the subscription model, they're very rigid. It's every March that the new version comes out, late March, early April. AutoCAD for Mac seems to be a bit more flexible about it. Don't know why, because again, it's on a subscription version. But yes, it's there and it's native, so it's not a question of trying to run VMware or something and running it, you know, in a mock Mac on your Windows system or vice versa.
So yeah. I've hit you with a little bit of a technical one here.
Yeah.
So we've got someone who is moving across from 3D ground plans in AutoCAD. How do we go about extracting a 2D section from the center line rather than a view from one side of the model?
Okay, I'll demonstrate, because strangely, this was the chapter of my book I was updating in the last couple of days. So I literally did this again yesterday, complete with screenshots. So okay, let me open a demo drawing, as it were. Let's find the right one. There we go. Okay. So this is where I am. Give it a minute. On the AutoCAD book model, I'm literally at this area. So I'm going to go to 2D wireframe, because it just makes life a little less strenuous for my graphics card. Let's do all this other stuff. So here we have a 3D model. I have a setting line here. What I need to do is I need to change to 3D modeling workspace, being the first thing to do, and then I need to go to section plane. So if I go to section plane and I pick a face, I'm going to pick this wall, and I've now, as you can see, it's now chopped everything else away. So if I click on the line here and use the triangle, I drag this, and I can use my center line as a reference. So now I've got a section in effect. Now I can generate a section. So select the section plane, it's that one, create. And now I've got a simple inserted as a block. So it's actually very simple once you've got the 3D model. As I said, when you're doing this, keep what you're looking at as simple as you can, a 2D wireframe. Turn off stuff if you need to. I mean, there's no point in having it all realistic with lights and materials and stuff on for doing something like this, because your graphics card will hate you for it unless you've got something really souped up. But it's actually really simple. It's there, it's part of the program. It's not anything you have to really do that's terribly challenging. You can flip which way you're looking on the plane as well by the little arrowhead kind of shows you what you've got. You can change the colors of like this infill and, you know, making red lines on the edges and stuff like that. Loads and loads of stuff you can do with it, but that is it in a nutshell. It is just using section plane. And as you can see, you get your own little bit of the ribbon comes up in AutoCAD for PC to help you with that. So
hopefully Paul, that's answered your question. If you take a little longer, like me, to pick things up, I will watch that back.
Yes, absolutely. Sorry if I whizzed through it. Do say so.
David always makes these things look so fabulously easy, but what's great is that the resource will be there. So if that was a little too quick for you, just go onto the ABTT website, and then you can just pause it at points as you're trying to keep up with him, and you can do it that way. Thank you. There aren't any more questions on AutoCAD. Yeah. Oh, but there are people asking about AutoStage.
Yeah, I'll get to AutoStage in a sec. In fact, let's see where we're at. Yeah, so let's talk about. I'll quickly talk about the charity's digital exchange, because as you know, we've had issues which we're still trying to resolve, and AutoStage may be a way to resolve this with getting software for the students on the AutoCAD course. Unfortunately, Autodesk changed their way of working with education software, so that you have to be in a Department for Education recognised institution to activate it, which obviously, unfortunately, the ABTT isn't at the moment. So we're looking at other options. The options we're recommending at the moment is basically downloading a load of trial versions, which you can change to being AutoCAD, because AutoCAD has what are called verticals. So ordinary AutoCAD, which we're looking at the moment, plus specialist tools. So there's a version for architecture, electrical, mechanical, various other things, but all of them you can turn them back to the vanilla AutoCAD, so that what you're seeing is what is in the coursework. Each of those lasts 30 days, so there's quite a few of them, and in that it's updated every year. You can kind of download one, use it for 30 days, download the next one, use it for 30 days, download the next one. We're hoping to find a solution to this. At the moment, we as I said, we've hit a brick wall with Autodesk, but we're going to look at other options and try and see what we can do to try and get this back. So one of the other options is for organisations is the Charity Digital Exchange. So this is a software exchange area for those that are charities, which would cover a huge number of theatres and theatre companies in the UK. So if you qualify, you can register, and AutoCAD is one of the things that you can purchase. Now, I say purchase, as opposed to the relatively high monthly rate, which is about £250 a month for full AutoCAD, about half of that for LT, the 2D only version. They're talking 157 quid for that version. So that's probably worth looking for if you are a organisation that is a charity. You need to qualify, you need to register your charity. As you can see here, register charity, check you're eligible, get your request. But that's something I think that would be worth looking at for organisations. As I say, in the meantime, we are trying to find alternatives. and other ways to it. We've engaged with Autodesk, and I said they're totally uninterested. I'll see if I can, I'm going to shut down my AutoCAD and open instead my AutoStage trial version, which I've got at the moment. Now, AutoStage is a replacement, as it were, for LD Assistant in some ways. LD Assistant was, as I was talking about the verticals just now, LD Assistant was Autodesk-based software that was theatrically based. So it had a whole load of lights that you could turn on, you could render, you could rig, you could extract information. It even spat out DMX. We actually had a Mac mover plugged into my laptop at a Plaza show a few years ago, where again we did a CAD clinic with Vectorworks, and we actually had the Mac mover there, and on my laptop was this Mac moving around in Autodesk, in AutoCAD, as far as you could tell. But actually, right, so this is going to take time because this is quite a dense drawing. But as you can see, it's all in German. So if anybody would like to help translate it, feel free. It's a bit beyond me, but this is basically where we are. It's a familiar AutoCAD environment. And if I go to the home page or the home tab, it's in English. It looks exactly the same as the AutoCAD 2022 I had up. This is 2022. But you've got lanterns and stuff. You've got Design Center over here. So I can go to lights, I know that much. And I can pick ATC lanterns, and here's a whole load of lanterns, and you can drag and drop them in, put them onto truss, add all the information. So this is AutoStage. As I say, they are developing the English version, but at the moment, I think with the pandemic and everything, like so much, they've kind of ground to a bit of a halt in terms of that. So there is a trial version, and if your German's up to it, go for it. Mine isn't, I'm afraid.
I think you've just answered this question. So is there a roadmap from the software development to produce an English language version? So you've just said,
yeah. As I say, the team there, they're desperate to do it. Yeah. Because as I say, because LD Assistant, going back in history, was Vectorworks Spotlight. It was the same person who basically created Spotlight, had a bit of a falling out, I think, and then went to Autodesk and created it. So there's now a big hole, certainly in the States, where LD Assistant was used quite extensively, for someone to come up with an Autodesk, AutoCAD-based theatrical software. So yeah, I'm sure they're desperate to get it working, but it's just taking its time. So I think that's me half hour up, more or less.
Yeah, and we've done all of the questions. That's not to say that there might be more at the end, so that's fine. Oh, hang on. I've just got one. Have we got time for a quick one that's just quickly popped in? Very quick. Can you take a show drawing, elect sound, etc., in a normal AutoCAD and import it into AutoStage so that you can use the AutoStage features?
Obviously, I think you would say that you would take the set and everything, lights and stuff will be special AutoStage features, as it were, because you can turn them on and you can focus them and stuff like that. So if you've got like a 2D or 3D block of a lantern in AutoStage, it will just treat it as like a dead object. Whereas in AutoStage, the whole point is you can drag in that lantern, turn it on, give it its attributes, all that kind of stuff. I think they've got two versions. So if you've already got full AutoCAD, you can buy a plug-in of AutoStage that plugs into your existing AutoCAD, or you can buy AutoStage, which has got AutoCAD in it and AutoStage features. Weirdly, I used to look after LD Assistant in the UK, and it was actually cheaper to buy LD Assistant with the extra tools than it was to buy AutoCAD at the time, which was quite bizarre. But yeah, you need to get in touch with Jen's at AutoStage to sort of, go for that.
So the last two questions, Ben and Steve, I hope your questions have just been answered, because David's really good and he's already, before you'd even asked them, so that about plugins and if they're standalone products or if they work together and stuff.
I
So,
think it's just options, basically.
yeah. So let's blow your mind by moving on to Vectorworks now. But that's not to say that we will come back to Q&A, so we can always come back to that. But
Okay,
thanks
I'm
for that.
stopping sharing now then. Over to you, Tom.
Thanks, David. Make sure I share the right desktop. Great, can you see my screen? Just thought I'd double check you can see it. So it showed up. You guys got it?
Yeah.
Cool. Great stuff. So my name's Tom White and I'm the industry specialist from Vectorworks. I've worked in theatre for about 15 years as a production electrician, touring relighter, and resident deputy and chief electricians and EOS programmer. And I've been using Vectorworks since I left university in 2004. I've done a variety of, from like scenic drawings to kind of lighting drawings. I'm also the main Spotlight trainer based in the UK. So Vectorworks is kind of cross-platform. It works on Mac and PC. There are plugins for it in terms of the Braceworks structural calculations plugin and the ConnectCAD schematics plugin, but the actual basic Vectorworks Spotlight has all of the lighting and cabling, truss rigging tools, libraries, resources. We also have a bridle tool. You can do beam clamps and grav locks, house rigging points, and there's an event design tool set as well for seating sections, staging objects, etc. This is a kind of simple set design of a show that I toured a couple of years ago, and I'm basically going to be looking at masking, sightlines, counterweight flying bars, weights, etc. And then we're going to look at creating some schematic views of lighting devices. So here is the 3D model. I'm just navigating this model using one of those space connection mice, which works with AutoCAD as well, and it's definitely well worth an investment if you're spending lots of time drawing. So this particular scenic model has had some lighting and sound added already, as you can see here. I've got some flown bars with a trapeze bar downstage and some flown speakers upstage. So it's really looking at investigating how we can check for sightlines and masking, and how we can use Vectorworks to work out a lot of those prior to getting into the venue. So if I just go to a top plan view, you'll also notice as well in that change that Vectorworks uses what's called hybrid symbols. So every block, as it were, has both a 2D and a 3D appearance, therefore enabling you to create a really nice 2D drawing, but it's linked to the 3D model. So in terms of checking the sightlines, then we have a camera tool within the software, which is called the RenderWorks camera tool, and you can just literally click to place and draw a line, and you can place these individual cameras. You can give them names, you can specify their ratio. You can also do things like specify the type of lens that you're using, DPI, exposure, all of that kind of stuff if you want to. But this is just for sightlines. So I've just placed the camera and I can literally just give it a name, and here I can give it some text. And once I've placed my cameras and given them names, I'm just going to open the visualization palette. So in the window palettes menu, there's a visualization palette, and there's separate palettes for lights and for cameras. So I can select visualization palette, go to the camera. You'll see here I've got 3 cameras. I've got a row AA center camera, which I can activate like so. And again, we're looking at this in a wireframe view, but I could also look at this in OpenGL. So we can see here, it's a bit of a mess up there. There's no masking in there at present. I've got a house left and a house right front row view. Now these cameras as well, you can also, it's very easy to edit them. So if I just do fine tune camera view, I can change the height of the camera, and I can change their look to heights, and I can pan them left and right, etc. Vectorworks isn't too bad at rendering OpenGL and complex geometry. There's a new feature we introduced in 2021, which essentially is called a VGM cache, and it just caches all of the 3D geometry for these objects. It means that once the first time you go to that 3D view for the first time in that session, Vectorworks then remembers all of the possible views of those 3D objects. And so it's actually fairly quick at orientating and moving around. So let's now look at creating some masking. So the first thing I'm going to do is just draw a small section of pipe with the lighting pipe tool. Just going to click, and again, if I wanted to, I could hit the tabs key and I can say 6 meters, for example, and then I could just hold down shift and double click to finish. Once I've drawn my lighting pipe, for this exercise, I'm going to make this a hanging position. You don't have to do this, but as you'll see later on in this process, by making it a hanging position, it means I can do things like create a report of the weight and all the trim heights of the stuff that's in the show. So now I've created this, I'm going to draw 4 meter borders on these bars. So I'm just going to fly that out to 4 meters first of all. And then I'm going to go to the event design tool set, use the soft goods tool. As you can see, I'm getting that red highlight, so it's attaching the weight. In terms of the weight of this item, there's lots of options here. So I can say, actually, I just want to draw a border. I want to draw a 4 meter border, and I can do things like pleat width and pleat depth, curves, etc., rope ties. I could say the bottom finish has got a bit of conduit in, for example. And I could also tell it what the distributed weight is going to be. I've already filled that out in some of the ones I made earlier. And it's just a case of double clicking to finish. And that is masking on top of our hanging position. What you'll see is any items that are attached to the hanging position get this little blue node on them, and you can remove them. And if you have something that should be attached to a hanging position and it's not for whatever reason, you can right click and select attach to object and associate it with that hanging position. So I'll just take it as read that I've already created some of these. So if I go and have a look back at the model, first of all, so I'll just orbit around here. We can see I've got some borders and I've got some legs in place, and I put in just kind of roughly for now. When it comes to editing the heights of these, you've kind of got 2 options. You can, if you want to, literally just select the height, change heights. There we go. So you can literally just select them, and you can change the Z value so that you can basically say, I want this, the height of this hanging position is currently 11 meters. So you could actually just enter in here, or you could say, I want to bring it in by 300. So you could type minus 300 up there. You can also, if you wanted to, just say, make a selection of these items and just physically pick them up and move them. Now, when you're moving things on a vertical axis in Vectorworks like this, you need to make sure you're not in an isometric view. You need to be in a right, bottom, back, and left view. And when you move them, you just need to hold down the shift key. And when you hold down the shift key, that essentially locks the axis that you're moving stuff on. You don't want to accidentally move those. So I'll just tweak these. So we can actually just physically have a look at this. And this isn't a sort of separate section. This is the model. They're just hybrid objects, 2D and 3D. So once we've done that, we can then just knit back into a top plan view. And again, I could use the palette I showed you earlier, but you can also just literally click on a camera and say activate the camera view. Obviously, it's not ideal. I can still see LX1 from this seat, so it still needs a bit more work. But if we kind of take it as read for now, that we have done that and tweaked all of our masking in and out, change the heights. The next thing I'm going to come to is how to number a lot of these. The lighting pipes have already been numbered, LXA, LX1, etc. I just were to number some of the border bars. So I'm just going to make a selection of the borders, like so. And if I just go to Spotlight numbering, so the Spotlight numbering command, whilst obviously we use it with lighting devices most of the time, you can actually use it on pretty much everything. So if I were to do position name, for example, and these are borders, so I'm going to say border, hit space, start at number 1, and number them from the bottom to the top. Click OK, and that's numbered my border bars. Okay, so I could then do the same thing for the legs. So I just grab these legs. I'll ignore the full black at the back for now. Spotlight numbering, and I'm going to call these legs. Start at 1. Put space in there and click OK. And that's now renumbered these. Okay. So I've got these positions. I've set them up to a height. There is weight attached to them. So you'll see here that these are all these lamps and devices are on the pipe. I can remove them if I wanted to. So there's a lot of data in, it's a bit like a block. It's called a plugin object, but think of it like a block, but it has loads of data associated with it. So it has the position name. I've already been around and assigned a counterweight number to a lot of these. There's just an empty text field which you can assign in there. So it would be really great if I could create a report of this information, which contains all of these objects. If I just were to go to Spotlight and hit reports and do create report, and then say, right, well, we're really looking for hanging positions is what we're looking at the minute. So basic criteria, filter by hanging positions. I call it new fly plot 1 or whatever, give it a name. And then in here, I'm just going to go to, well, we'll get a records first of all. I'll talk about functions in a moment. I can select hanging position. What I want is the position name. I want the location, which is the field that I happen to be using as for the counterweight bar. If there was multi-core soccer run to these bars, I could also get it to give a summary of the circuits that are run there as well. I could then say total hung weight can go there. And the next thing to do is I want the height, the trim height, and I want the distance from the setting line. You'll notice looking at my model that the Vectorworks origin is the downstage front edge of the stage, so just behind the iron. And that's where I've decided I'm going to have my setting line from. You can move the origin in Vectorworks if you need to do this, but that's a kind of a good place to have your setting line. If I change this now to functions, I can now say I want the Y center there, and I want the Z center, like so. And if I were to just reorder this list and put Y center first of all, and then let's put location. Okay. Once you've done this and you've set the right fields, you can then just hit OK. And here is the report that gets created. So you can see here, if I were to sort this list from Y center ascending, I click OK. This now becomes essentially the distance from setting line. So I could rename that like so. The location we've already assigned. The position name we know, the total hung weight's already there, and the Z height, that is basically the trim height bar. And what you'll see here then is if you were, for example, to make changes to some of this stuff, so if I just go to one I made earlier, down this list somewhere, there it is. If I were to change some of this information, so let's move, what should we do? We could move border 2 downstage a little bit, let's do that. Very badly. There we go. So border 2. This is showing really old information anyway. So what I just do is right click on here and select recalculate. And doing that will actually filter in all of the latest changes that have been made. So it's like a live track of what's happening. So let's remove some lights from LX2. There we go. And then recalculate this, and this is going to give me an updated weight for LX2 from here. The other thing I wanted to show you next, so we can see that happening live, is the data tags. So I just put some of these lights back onto LX2. Right click, attach to rigging object. You should be associated with that position. That's good. There we go. Okay, we've also got another feature where you can display this data through a data tag. So a data tag is a bit of geometry and text, which extracts and links the data that is kept in the hanging position. So if I just go to the data tag tool for a moment and select a data tag, hanging position tag, hit select. And basically I'm going to click once. Go on, let me change this. I have to deselect this first of all. There we go. Okay, so basically click once to place the tag, draw a line, and then select the hanging position. And what you'll see here is that's a tag for border 1, distance from the setting line is 1.3 meters, and the trim height is 8.75 meters. So the data tag tool itself then, there's a couple of different modes. I'm going to show you this second mode in a moment, but I can place this tag, put it on LX1, for example, Right, so and if I were to then change the trim height of LX1 over here, let's now make it 7 meters. It's going to update, and as you can see, it keeps that refreshed in the tag. And it's also got the weight value as well, which is going to update. So let's remove that moving light, nice and heavy. Remove from hanging position, that's now refreshed. So that's now 117 kilos on that bar. Now, the other thing about data tags, which is quite fun and what I've started using them for, is you can actually use them to kind of create a fly plot to the right-hand side of the screen. If I just show you how this works, show you one I've already made, look for it. There we go. So this is the data tag I've made. So this is where you set the options for the data tag, whether you want them to have a leader line from the tag to the object. And then what I've done here is I've said, well, automatically place the items at a given offset on the x-axis. And I'll show you what that does in just a second and what that means. If we go to edit the tag layout, you'll see here I've got counterweight, question mark, position name. If we select this piece of text and then we go to define tag field, you'll see here that it's using the hash light position object position name. So you can basically map this to be any data you want. And then when you place the tag and extract the data, it just runs this script, pulls the data and displays it. So I click cancel, I'm not going to change that. Because the other mode of the data tag tool we've got is because it's not using a leader line, I can now select data tag and then say, let's do all of the eligible objects. I'm going to use the line set tag that I've just made. And by default, it's just going to place loads of them on all of them, okay? Which, as you can see, places a little bit of a mess, doesn't it? However, all I just need to do is right click, align left, and they'll all neatly line up. And you can see we've then got counterweight, distance from setting line, and weight of the pipes, which is great. Cool. So if I now show you, I'll now move on to schematic views and how that works. It's more of a kind of lighting orientated feature. So first of all, then, let's make sure I've got everything turned on. We can see everything over here. Perfect. So I'm going to show you the simplest way, first of all. So I'm literally just going to grab the lighting type tool and just going to draw like a 2 meter boom, like so. Made a bit of a hash of that, but never mind. I'm just going to put some lights on here. So I'll go to the lighting device tool and select a lighting symbol. There'll be one already in this file, so let's not reinvent the wheel. I'll just grab something that is in here. There we go. 26 degrees C, 26 degrees source 4 from white light. I'll actually just attach that there, attach one next to it. I'll put another one at the bottom somewhere. Okay. Now, I might just give them a purpose so we can see some text on there as well. I'll just put a load of rubbish down and I'll make sure they're using a legend. So you basically draw everything horizontally as you would normally. And then if we select the pipe object, again, I haven't made this a hanging position, I probably won't. You could do that, but for this workflow, I probably wouldn't bother. You can make it hanging position afterwards. But if I were to, let's just orientate them pointing across stage for now, but the pipe itself has a hanging angle up here. So if I say hang that at 90 degrees, this is what it does. Okay. There we go. So you can see that's where they are. In terms of their orientation and how you outrig them and offset them, etc., there is a X and Y rotation value. So if you wanted it to, you could twist it around the pipe and outrig it in a particular way. So if I change the X rotation to like -45 instead, it'll give you an idea. You can kind of twist and move these around, etc. So you can use the rotation tool in conjunction with outrig lighting devices in this way. I won't go into too much detail for this. I'll just quickly create a schematic and I'll show you a better workflow after this. This is just the easiest, quick and dirty way to do it. So visualization, create a schematic view, and it basically creates a flattened 2D graphic of the position. There it is. So I can now, if I move them a bit close together, we can see how they interact with one another. There we go. So you can see there, 3D models, 2D graphic. Now these lighting devices, I'd really like them to be turned around the other way. So I'm just going to type in -90 for those to get them pointing where I want them to. Now, interestingly, with this, you can use this as a way of editing the boom. So if we wanted, I'll put that here, makes a bit more sense. If we wanted these two that are close together, if we wanted to move the next one up, I could just pick up the fixture and move it along the position like here. And you'll see here that it also moves it in real life. Interesting, that's done that. So that's the first thing you can do. You can use it to edit the actual position. The other thing you can do is these can be used to create an exploded diagram of your lighting devices. So I can actually, by picking it up by the node, I can then do this, and I can then rearrange these as I want. There is also these witness lines which are being created. You can turn those off, or you can apply a line style to those as well. There we go. There we go, brilliant. Okay, so lastly then, very quickly, how do you make one that looks like an actual boom? And here we just have some 3D geometry, which I've kind of modeled using the 3D modeling tool set in Vectorworks, which I haven't got time to go into now. But I've made some sort of extrude long paths, and here's a boom base, and I've made some scaff. Now there's a reason why I have placed it on its side. So the schematic view basically remembers what the object looked like when you were making it in a 2D view, and it basically sort of makes a sort of snapshot of the 2D appearance, or what it's going to use for the 2D appearance. So if I just create a line here, the key thing here is if you're wanting it to look like a boom, is I'm actually creating 3D geometry, not using any of the plugins, but I'm going to use it for all of my booms. So I'm going to make a symbol out of it and all of that. So again, it's not too convoluted. You can repeat this process. You don't have to do this each time. You just need to create your first boom, and then you can work from that. So if I'm looking for the extrude long path command, basic extrude long path pulls a circle through a line. I imagine it's probably the same equivalent in AutoCAD. And then this boom arm, I'm just literally going to plonk that on top of there. And I'll use the move by points tool just to create a couple of copies of those, like so. Okay, brilliant. This is going to be a hanging position. So I want Vectorworks to remember this because I want it to use this as a 2D graphic. So I have to just do Spotlight, object conversion, make a hanging position out of that. The key thing here is it only has 3D geometry, and it will kind of warn you about that, because obviously in a plan view, it's going to be look like lines and not solids. So it's just telling you it's not going to look very nice in this orientation. However, the schematic view command is going to create a version of this that looks better for us. So let's click yes. I'll call it boom. I don't know, I've got some already in the drawing, so it's 7 or whatever. And always click use geometry. Main reason is that then you can just double click and go in and edit it if you need to, and move your arms around and stuff if you do that. So I'll just turn the show name off. I'll just put a lighting device onto some of these, and I'll put another one on here, and I'll put another one there. There we go, cool. So if we look at now this in a front view, there we go. Where have you gone? There you are. Cool. So there it is. Fixtures are hanging straight down, and I can now just get the rotate tool, and I can just walk the boom up. It's much easier than it is in real life, fortunately. There we go. So the fixtures are now outrigged because obviously they've rotated on that axis. But again, I could either, just going to see if I've got the right mode selected for this. Yeah. So with the rotate tool, I can then just rotate these so they're hanging straight down. And then, so I know if they're going to make the shots or not, or collide with the other units, there's now a pan and a tilt value in here. So I could just do tilt 90 degrees for these units. There we go. So let's now make a schematic of this and see what it looks like. So we do Spotlight visualization, create a schematic view. And basically what it does is it looks pretty good. I'll explain how it works it out. Now, that 3D orientation that we used at first, the first time, with the weird wireframe geometry, the schematic view creates a hidden line rendering of that object, which is really nice. Now, if I needed to update this, I could go in and double click and edit the position and move the boom arms around. And this then becomes a bit like a viewport. So it basically is a live link to that item. I haven't got any data associated with this, but if I were to put a bunch of stuff in the purpose, for example, etc., that would all come across into the schematic as well. Should do. Okay, cool. So that kind of brings me to the end of of that section of the presentation. Now, got any questions before we look at the ABTT Vectorworks course?
There aren't any open questions, Tom, but cool. The question box is still open, guys. So if you do have any that pop to mind.
The other thing I was going to say actually is anyone who wants it and has got 2021, I'm happy to share this file with you as well. So I'll actually put it in Dropbox somewhere, so I can post a link to it in the chat if you're interested. Because a lot of those things like data tags can be quite fiddly to set them up the first time. But again, I'm happy to share the file I've created, and then you can literally just use the ones I made for your own projects.
Oh no, I would love that, Tom. I've got a fair few students that would absolutely love to have a base to start working from. I always think that's a really
cool. See how someone else does it. Definitely. Yeah. I know
if you're able, Tom, if you can send it through to me, I can make sure it goes out
as part of the email.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. With the recording. Thanks.
Brilliant. I'll send you the link. Okay, cool.
Lots of thumbs up there, Tom. Lots of
great stuff.
Good. Lots of people affirming that they would like that.
Okay, cool. So we'll have a look at the Vectorworks University then. So for quite a while, David's very kindly did this course for the ABTT for AutoCAD, for learning AutoCAD. And then, so this hasn't been a Vectorworks course for a long time. I started creating this about probably a year or so ago, but we were just waiting for our Vectorworks University to catch up. So we've kind of got this online learning platform called the Vectorworks University. And this is the technology that's hosting the private ABTT course. So if you were to look on the university today, you won't be able to find it, but we'll be sending it as part of the follow-up email, how you can get access to the course. Alicia will send out some information regarding that. But just to say, if you are interested in doing the ABTT Vectorworks course, you'll need to, as well as obviously applying through the website, the ABTT website, you'll also just need to create a login on the Vectorworks University, and that's free. It doesn't cost anything. It just means that we've then got a way. I mean, creating the login is free. This means that we've then got a way to admit you and allow you access to the ABTT course. So in terms of what the course looks like, this is a sort of stereotypical course page that comes up. This was the first one I thought we'd show you. I thought I'd show you the beginning, the end. So there's an introduction to the course. It's kind of tried to follow where possible the AutoCAD equivalent. So the learning outcomes are identical and the workflow is very similar. So for example, the introductory course here will basically just, how does CAD work? How do the coordinates work? X and Y, datums and origins and all of that information. And then there's a whole host of all of the specific industry tool sets in Vectorworks, such as using the truss tool, using the lighting tool, how to create renderings, etc. And then towards the end of the course itself is 7 courses. Each one is purchasable individually. And then this is just a stereotypical example of the more advanced end of the course. So this module appears in course 6 and is about our marionette tool, which is very similar to something called Grasshopper, if anyone's used that. And it's basically a way, if you get good enough Vectorworks and you decide you don't want to draw stuff anymore, you can actually just create an algorithm to draw it for you. This particular image that we're looking at here creates a fully rendered 3D model of a flight case based on the sizes that you input into it. So the user literally just types in the dimensions of the case they want created and it creates it all for you. So you can do things like that. I've got the marionette script, which is the one I use to create this course. And it basically tells you how to create one of these flow scripts, which enables you to select a load of 2D geometry and turn it into 3D extrudes. So kind of ideal for importing 2D line drawings and making them into 3D models. So in this case, these scenic flats become 3D flats with a thickness. So marionette is really powerful. It's really sort of hidden away in Vectorworks itself. It's actually just one tool icon just here called marionette. And then you can kind of select various different nodes and functions that you want it to do. So again, you can learn all about that kind of stuff in these courses. And this is a kind of stereotypical, again, of course 6. You might find that there are slightly fewer modules in the later courses, but they become much more in depth, much more complex. Yeah, so this course will be available from this week. All courses, all 7 of them in total. And we'll have some, again, we'll be sending you some more information on that in due course. And cool, so if we could just open up now to just a general Q&A, if you like.
Fab. Well, actually, we've got somebody in the Q&A asking David if you would be happy to share something similar to what Tom has just shared, some sort of base plan or something that does seem quite popular. Base AutoCAD, some starting point. Yeah.
Yeah,
no?
I'm sure I can find something if someone's a bit more. I mean, is it a theatre ground plan or?
I can, Gareth, who asked that question, perhaps you could just be a little bit more specific about what you're after, Gareth. And then I'm sure David may have, he's probably got a myriad of base files somewhere.
I mean, it might be, we've got in the templates now in Vectorworks, which you might not have seen, there's a UK metric template, and all that really is a layer structure and, you know, an AutoCAD layer structure, Vectorworks class structure, and then obviously a title block as well, because they can be quite fiddly things to create when you're new to the program. So it might just be a template like that. And yeah, if you look at the Spotlight metric one, that's a good place to start. Yeah,
there's an AutoCAD one that I've got on the website. I don't think it's got a title block on it, but it's got all the ABTT CAD standard layers all sorted out.
Yeah.
All that stuff is kind of there, ready to go. I can stick the title block in there. That's not a particular issue because that's a block.
Yeah.
If that's what Gareth's after. Yes, sure. I'm quite happy to sort that out.
Yeah, we've got the same. So we've got the ABTT line styles and hatches in the Vectorworks one. Yeah, that would be really. I think it would be good to have that as a downloadable resource somewhere, wouldn't it? I think.
Yeah. Oh gosh,
that would be really cool. We should do that at some point. That'd be good.
The thing to do is make it actually as a template, and then it's a much more useful thing than an actual drawing, because an actual drawing gets fiddled with, whereas a template is a lot more difficult to fiddle with because you have to know about templates.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we can do either.
So Alicia has just, by the magic of Zoom webinar, made Gareth available. So I don't know how brave you are, Gareth, in turning your mic on and expanding a little bit on the kind of thing that a base template that you'd be after. He might not be. I'm not sure I'd be brave enough. That's all right. He's floating around in the background. But yeah, I know that Tom and David have got a myriad of fabulous templates to work with people, and I'm sure they'd be more than happy to share some sort of base template. I know, working with students, that sometimes just staring at these software platforms with nothing there is sometimes the most overwhelming experience in the world ever. And
it's like the Grand MA console, isn't it? Because you open up and then all the screens are blank.
Yeah, it takes you 6 years to set the MA up. No, absolutely, yeah. So sometimes you just are more tempted to dive into things once you've got something there. You feel like there's something more to explore.
Yeah, I mean our ConnectCAD template that you open up, which I think I might do for the other UK Spotlight templates, because you don't even need to set up any viewports. You literally just start drawing stuff on the page, stage, lights, whatever, and then you go to the sheet layers and it's all there. It just magically appears on the sheet layer. So I might start implementing that for this. That'd be good.
I've just a fabulous comment in the chat about using CAD in anger is the best learning tool. I cannot advocate that enough. So I remember when I was creating Blackout, and I was very much of that school of thought of two-dimensional drawing, and attempted with that project to do it as three-dimensional. And I think I nearly threw my laptop in the river, because I live on a boat, on many occasions, in order to do it. But I must say that there's some fab resources online now, and the videos I think are really helpful. And these 2 courses that have been developed are just so helpful. And I think it's all about how you teach software packages, and you really have to have that skill set in order to do it. So as a teacher, it's one of the things in lighting that I outsource because I'm not very good at it. And you just have to admit when you're not very good at teaching this kind of software. And I can speak firsthand that Tom and David are both absolutely fabulous at teaching this software. And I think that you all agree that the presentations that they've done have been really extensive. And I think a testament to the fact that there's not lots of questions. She says, as to ping up. There we go. Look, I feel we've answered that one. So
contact us directly. Yeah.
Should I? Okay, so this is for you, Tom. Should I be seeing the ABTT course in the Vectorworks University already, or is it coming soon?
So it is there, but it is actually hidden. So it's basically because it's basically what we call a learning path. So the idea being is that you enroll onto the course and you do each of the 7 courses, and we're looking into accreditations for this at the end. So essentially a qualification in the course itself. So they will be just for people who are enrolled on the course, not available to sort of the wider general public. But again, we'll send up some details in that follow-up email of how to get access to it.
Yeah, I've got all the information ready to go. We will just make it live towards the end of the week. Just a bit overwhelmed with all of the seminars going on at the moment. But when I send that email through to you, all the details will be on there.
Yeah, so there aren't, guys, so if there are any other questions, we do have another sort of 15 minutes or so allocated time. That's not to say that we have to sit here in silence if nobody does have any questions at all. I'm normally very good at filling this, but I actually do feel that it's really a testament to the presentations that you're doing. So I've been very honoured to present both of these. So you did one for us last year, and it's lovely to see the developments in the software. The style that you present is always easy for us people that don't naturally blend in with this kind of technology. So thank you so much. And I know that Tom and David are really open industry facing people, and you can easily contact them if you do have questions. So there is another one that's just popped up. Does that email come direct to us, or if we've been to the seminar? So yes, it will.
Yeah.
I'll let Alicia answer that one.
Yes, it will. So anybody who's been registered, whether or not they could or couldn't attend, it will be sent through to them, along with a link to the video recording and any of the messages that we've had during the session as well. So all those links that we've been putting in there will be available for you as well. So you don't need to worry about trying to copy and paste them all now. I will send them through to you directly.
Right, so I suspect that we've sort of naturally drawn to a close, but it's great that we've had this allocated time if there was any more questions that pops up. I know that Alicia has particularly got a very busy day and would welcome another 10 minutes of an extra wee break and perhaps a cup of tea in between the epic amounts of seminars that she's administrating today. So I think we'll finish it up there, and if you do have any other further questions, you can always contact the office and we can get it through to you. And all of these resources will pop up on the ABTT page along with the recording and anything that we've promised you in this session. So the other thing that I've just found is the most amazing resource ever. So Alicia has just bombarded us with great information, and I used to spend my life copying and pasting it and opening it in extra boxes. There are 3 dots at the bottom of your chat box. If you click on those 3 dots, you can save the chat as a text file, thus making life incredibly easier. And all those great resources and links that Alicia has put in there are just there for you to access later on, and that has made my life so much easier in these fabulous seminars that we've had. So yeah, thanks very much, Tom and David. Always enlightening, always a pleasure to be in the room with such intelligent human beings. Yeah, every success with the Vectorworks University thing looks really, really exciting. If you need any more information, let me know. I hope to see some of you later on in the other seminars. So it's always a bit eggy, this bit. I think Alicia's got the button to say to end it all, but thank you very much for sticking with us today. Enjoy the rest of your day.
And yeah, we hope to see you in some of the other sessions. Thanks, guys.
Bye all.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.